So I do a little bit of bling here for the beginning of the Q&A part 2. This is our BMW M5. It's a 2019. It's like a family truckster that you can turn into a race car. It's got 3 settings, regular, and then M1 and M2 now. It's not just an M button anymore. And it's badged pretty stealthily. It's hard to get up here and see M5 competition. I've not had it on the track. It's just a car I enjoy. So when it comes to track day, when you have a McLaren and a Viper, they really come in front of this one. This is just a fun car to drive. It's a great GT if you want to believe it. I mean, sometimes I drive it up to Troy, New York. It's about just under 400 miles, and this is a fun car to do it in. Give you a little shot from inside the car. So you get the this is the M1 button right here, and the M2 buttons right here. All right, guys, same day. Just we're in the BMW, the M5. Just showed you a little bling shot here before we got in here. So this is our Q&A part 2. I don't know if that's going to confuse people that I have Q&A numbers that don't match the video numbers. But after after I did part 1, I've had a couple more questions come in, and they really fall into 2 categories. And I thought they really warranted a discussion here for the larger audience to see it. Let's see. The first was, did my son Sean have any interest in really coming into the company and taking over someday? And there's just, as most of my answers are, it's layered. There's lots of parts to the answer. But, what I'll tell you is, in reality, the answer was no. At first, when he was younger, he thought he did. He interned with us for 2 years, 2 summers. The first one, he was too young, and it didn't work very well. Getting up every day and getting into the office every day just proved to be too much. And at really 14 or 15, he was really not ready for it. He did it again last summer, a year ago. He was 17. We were able to arrange a situation where he worked 4 days a week and had Fridays off, and was able to ride in with a family member and didn't have to go in as early as I did, and it really worked out great. And he ended up designing the website. I'll put a link to it down below if you want to see the work he did. It's still live. It's still the DHA website even after the acquisition. As I film this, it still is. He did a great job and proved he could work in a team and do great technical work. But he's off to school, and it's 4 years and another to get to his master's degree. It looks like he's skipping his freshman year, but at the time, it was 4 or 5 years to his master's, and then he wants to go get his law degree, and then at some point he maybe wanted to come back to the company, but we weren't sure. His true heart, his true love, I think, is Silicon Valley. So to put everything on hold and hope he wanted to come back and all that just didn't seem to make sense. So I discussed the option with him throughout the sales process, starting really last June or July, when companies, by the time the 6th or 7th company started pinging us for a sale, and then we got one that was real serious. So I talked to him for months prior to the sale, and I don't know, I think he's okay. So the other part about it is, the company was, we were valued at $53 million last year. We had a run rate of 80 or 87 million. And so we did $53 million in 2018, but we were projecting with closed sales orders for about 83 to 87 million. So that was our run rate at the time. And a year later, our run rate's looking like about, it's not my company anymore. I got to quit saying we. But the run rate right now looks like somewhere between 100 and 120 million. And so to hold that together and keep going, 5, 6, 7 years from now, it'd be a $250 million company. And that just doesn't make sense to just bring his son in and kind of bypass the entire leadership and executive structure. It's not like Dave's Plumbing where it's two or three guys and a couple $100,000 in revenue. I just don't think, I'm not making fun of that type of company in any way. I respect it immensely. But what I mean is, I don't think you take $100 or $200 million entity and really say, well, the CEO's son coming in and he's just going to override everybody and bypass everybody that's worked for years and just take over the company. That just didn't seem right. So that ends the story with Sean. It ends up being the answer is no, and I think he's totally fine with it. I mean, why wouldn't he be, by the way, if you think about it? Here's a guy who is, set up for inheritance. He knows what the company was worth. He knows what we sold it for. He knows that he's in direct line to inherit it. So I don't understand why he'd be upset. I think he's quite happy. So he never has to worry about money again, and he gets to follow his heart. I think he'll become, he wants to get his computer engineering master's, and I think he'll get his law degree, and then he'll head off to Silicon Valley and make his own mark. Meanwhile, knowing he's got this beautiful cushion behind him. So I don't see anything, I see no negative with that situation. But that brings up a larger topic I wanted to talk about, and that was friends and family in your business. And I think that question starts to lead down that road. And so I just wanted to talk to you a couple minutes about, in my estimation, and the kind of company I did, and if you want to grow it, make it much larger, I think friends and family are a mistake. Now again, I fall into the need to want to say to you, that's my story. The family and friends I brought into the company didn't work out, and because of my experience, I'd be gun shy to recommend that. I wouldn't start a company with a family member. If you want to own it and hire them, that's one thing, but try to start it as partners is tough, because eventually someone's going to fail. And I got to tell you, that makes 4th of July and Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner quite weird. And then with friends, you guys can be best friends, but you're probably best friends because you're having fun together. And starting and running and keeping a business alive is nothing like fun. And eventually someone's going to want to go out on Thursday night instead of Saturday night, and then maybe come in late, a little hungover on Friday. And you're still in there at 6 a.m. and he's getting in at 9 or 10 o'clock. And instead of working until 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. one night, he's going out at 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And then you got a big release coming up, but Saturday there was a couple of his other buddies came in and you chose not to go, but they went golfing and you had to carry the load. You do that enough and it really does fracture relationships. And if you're the boss and you have employees, you can address it. It's much harder when they are your friends, and it's even harder when they're your family. So I just wanted to tell you I've done it. It didn't help me in a single instance. Every single one failed, and I would just recommend not going down that road. So the second topic area that came up was, can we talk about investing for a minute? And particularly, I had 2 different people ask me about real estate investing. And again, I'm going to caveat this again. You're going to hear this a lot. This is from my world, from my experience, from my story, and I find it doesn't work. I'm sure there are lots of people out there who have made their money, made their retirement, made their fortune on real estate investing. I don't know one. I couldn't find one, and I tried a bunch of different ways, by the way. But what I found with, buying a house and flipping it, or buying an investment condo, I bought them on the ski hills, I bought them on the waterfront. I'm still owner, not a major owner, but a significant owner of a real estate trading company or holding company out in the Midwest. And I have yet to make money in any of my instances. Even if you buy something for $100,000 and you sell it for $200,000, how long did you have to carry it? And the thing a lot of these programs don't talk about is the carrying costs. You've got to either buy it outright, that means you have a lot of cash anyway, so maybe it'd be better just to invest it, or you got to borrow. So you got to put money down, but then you got to make mortgage payments and interest payments, and you got to pay insurance payments, and sometimes mortgage insurance payments. Then you have the upkeep of it. And I'll tell you, I have not seen too many places where what you make when you rent it out comes even close to really covering the true carrying costs of that piece of property. Now, hopefully there's somebody watching these videos that says, well, that's what I do. I do it for a living, and maybe we can get them more involved or connect you guys up so you can talk directly. I just have found that once I add up all the payments and the insurance costs and the repairs and the annual maintenance and the occasional winter icing over or the hurricane or whatever it is, I've never made money in real estate. And again, I'll say it, I don't know anybody. I've seen all the TV ads, I've seen all the people on TV, I've seen all the TV series, but in all my years, I've not found anybody who makes a living and made their fortune actually doing real estate transactions. There are lots of people out there who have made money selling you their real estate system and their real estate process. And you can even become partners with them, and you can become part of their organizations. And I'll put to you, I believe the money they've made is from selling you and taking your money, not from the real estate transactions themselves. I could be wrong that there could be lots out there. I don't know any. So that was the other thing I just wanted to talk to you tonight about. So I would not get family and friends involved in business. I would keep them separate, and I would not jump into real estate transactions. Certainly not where most of you seem to be, kind of early, kind of young, kind of beginning. I don't know where the real estate market is going. So the last piece is, if you understand macroeconomics, if you understand population waves and the generations, you get a better sense of where the long-term housing prices are going. So I currently own a fair amount of property, and I use it as my home. I have a 2-bedroom executive condo on the waterfront, and I do rent that out. I have my 60-acre horse farm. I got the house up in Troy, but that's really for Sean. We'll probably be buying a house in Jackson, Wyoming, at some point in the next year or so. And then we'll buy a house in the South, Charleston, South Carolina, or if my daughter goes to Savannah, we'll buy there. So I own a fair amount of real estate, so I'm not negative on owning real estate. I just don't want to own it as an income stream or my long-term wealth creation plan. So if you study generations, the baby boomers were one of the largest generations just by people count in a long time, and what we call the millennials is now the largest, and they really just entered buying the housing market in the last few years. And the reports I've read, and you know what, I've got to do another video and put some of this up, but the reports I read on long-term population projection is, in 2021, 2022, 2023, the big bubble of the millennial generation, it will be in the childbearing and house buying years of their lives. And so we might see a big expansion, a big increase in real estate prices over those years. But following that, I don't know what the next generation looks like yet. I don't know what year they'll be entering the market. I don't know if it's larger or smaller. So long term, I don't know where we're going. So we'll see. I think the outward expansion of cities is coming to an end. I think we've reached people's limits. I don't think more people are willing to drive more than 50 or 60 miles one way. And some of you are probably even laughing at that sense. And we have a number of people who drive 50, 60 miles one way or commute that far every day to work. And I think that's coming to an end. I don't think the millennials like that. And I think the green movement is starting to give reasons not to. So we'll see. But as cities don't expand, will the suburbs become worth more or less? I don't know. there's just too many moving parts for me to make a huge bet in real estate. I think it'd be far better to do it in the market. Or, again, my story, I did it by putting all my money and reinvesting it into my company. That's a huge risk, because if you screw up, everything goes, your salary and all your investments. But it worked for me. For 25 years, I plowed almost all of my money right back into the business. And it was fantastic for me. The best investment was me. The best investment was my company. And so as you start yours, if you start blowing it up, it's going to need capital. And maybe that capital should come from you not taking money out of the company instead of you investing somewhere else. I think that's it. I'm going to shut up. We'll end the video, and we'll get this up. Q&A part 2 is done. Hopefully these answers help. If they spur other questions, please get them back to me. Have a great night, everybody.